The rest of the human fleet joined the Sol Olympia just outside the 43rd system. The various Sol commanders had a small conference, one I was not privy to. Once Colonel Smith came out of the meeting, he gave tactical command to all unit commanders under him. The other Sol fleets followed suit, giving command to their respective unit commanders. Sol Ark released the Growler unit to lead the push, accompanied by Sol Nova fighter units as an escort. Colonel Smith was kind enough to explain how this push was going to be executed. Sol Nova and Ark would lead the way. The Growlers would start by jamming Ravager command control frequencies, followed by overwhelming targeting sensors with fake data. He explained either the Ravagers would unleash their weapons at the fake data, hitting nothing, or refuse to fire until more clarification. With their weapon sensors made useless, they would most likely call for backup, which the Growlers would also be jamming. They would receive no assistance. Anything not in the immediate vicinity of the attack by humans would have no idea we were there, and that is exactly what happened. The humans pushed right through the remaining systems without taking a single planet back. They lost a couple of ships due to lucky shots from the enemies, but nothing that would deter their advance. 1 week is all it took for us to reach Ravager space. Humanity, the unstoppable force, was about to meet a very movable wall. We sat in their space for a full day. The remaining Ravager force mustered between us and their core worlds. They sent out a recall to their forces in Union space to retreat to defend their home system. The humans allowed the broadcast to go out. They wanted this defeat to mean something. They wanted the Ravagers to feel it in their core. Their entire military force crushed beneath the iron boot of humanity. We sat, waiting, neither side shooting the first shot. The alarms on the Olympia began ringing out. The Ravager force from Union space was about to enter local space directly behind us. In the beginning of the humans' intervention, I would have been scared, but they never did anything recklessly. Sol Nova and Ark both moved to cover the flank of Olympia and Terra. A few hundred ships departing from Sol Ark, flying around the space between us and the expected arrival of the Ravagers. The pattern they were flying wasn't random, but I couldn't tell what purpose it served until Colonel Smith activated a new layer on the bridge command screen. Thousands of tiny green circles filled the screen. I looked as if a new galaxy had blinked into existence. "What are those?" I asked, unable to contain my curiosity. "A nasty surprise." My head cocked to the side. Humans were full of nasty surprises. I was almost excited to see what havoc was about to be unleashed. Nova and Ark took up seemingly strange positions to the far sides of the newly found green galaxy. That's when the Ravagers walked in, guns blazing. As they walked in, the Ravager force in the front began their attack, Olympia and Terra taking the full brunt of that attack, Sol Ark and Nova taking the rear attack. I pulled out my holopad to view the battle behind us. Those strange positions Sol Ark and Nova took served a purpose. They funneled and baited the Ravagers. From what it looked like, Olympia and Terra were vulnerable from the back. They pushed forward, right through the humans' trap. My mandibles dropped as I watched the thousands of detonations. Mining space? That's preposterous. The void is so large, to accurately know where the enemy force would move within the battlefield was so statistically low, the mining was abandoned. I couldn't believe the efficiency I saw our force execute. They approximated where they would be and then baited them, using their own force as live bait, and it worked. I later learned that the mines were live but turned off, undetectable until Sol Ark activated all of the approximation mines. There was no escape. No mercy in that moment, as the rear force of the Ravager fleet was decapitated. The majority wiped out in a single mining effort. Humans really were masters of war. Thousands of years practicing for moments like this. I looked ahead to the battle in front. Sol Terra had positioned itself in front of the Olympia. I noticed before when Terra warped in that it looked a bit worn down and beaten. I didn't fully understand why that was compared to the other fleets. Terra was no ship. It was a shield. It absorbed every bit of hate from the Ravagers. Humanity was truly an unstoppable force. Sol Terra was the unmovable wall. Once the rear force was rendered useless, humanity sent a message even I never predicted. "This is the Commander-in-Chief. Surrender now, or we will stop our assault upon your home worlds." I looked to Colonel Smith for an answer. His response was short, yet held so much weight. "I hope they don't." His wish was granted as the Ravagers refused and continued their defense. The comms lit up as the message rang out. "This is the Sol Terra Commander. Release the Planet Breakers." A detachment descended on the furthest Ravager core world. They separated into 3 smaller forces and did a sublight speed warp to the planet's surface. An extremely risky maneuver, but it got them past the planet's defences. I changed my channel on the holopad and got to see Terra 1's camera. Their ship landed, releasing a large tank with a drill on the front. Terra 1, Planet Breaker 1 in position. Terra 2, Planet Breaker 2 in position. Terra 3, Planet Breaker 3 in position. This is Sol Terra, cleared hot. Remote start and get the hell out of there. The teams activated the breakers, got back in the ship, and walked back to Terra's side. This is Terra 1, Planet Breakers will reach the core within 3 minutes. Will activate once all weapons are in place. My stalks just blinked blankly at what I was hearing and watching. Planet Breaker was a terrifying name, but one does not simply break a planet. Detonate the breakers. What happened next caused me to lose my stomach. The weapons detonated, tearing through the planet core, ripped apart the mantle of the planet. The force of the weapons caused the continents to separate from the planet, floating into the void. The planet was ripped apart by 3 weapons. Only 4 core worlds remained of the Ravagers. Sol Terra was holding off the attack from the main Ravager force. Humanity was no longer on the offensive. They wanted the enemy fleet to watch and suffer. Debris filled space where their planet once stood proud. Military facilities, civilians, hospitals, schools, and religious centers were all wiped out of existence. This is the Commander-in-Chief. If you surrender now, we will stop our assault. We do not take pride in wiping out innocent lives. A short broadcast played for us on the bridge. A Ravager screaming into the camera, "You shall never escape for this!" Colonel Smith barked out the final order of the war. Sol Terra, release the second wave of Planet Breakers. If the Ravagers could go pale, it would have. Smith cut the broadcast manually as he watched the second planet crumble into pieces. Transmission requests began flooding in. For the first time since the Ravagers began their attack, they stopped. Their fighters pulled away from Sol Terra and returned to their fleet. The Colonel just stared at the requests on the screen as he cocked his head to the side. A small smile began to spread on his face. "And so history repeats itself," is all the Colonel said. "Have humans dropped 2 planet breakers on someone before?" "This is Major Bivistok. We surrender." The cheers were deafening. The Ravagers had finally admitted defeat. I was dismissed for a short while the Ravager Matriarch and humanity's leaders met. The peace talks lasted around a week, and they broadcasted the final meeting. The Matriarch, President Kane of Earth, and a Star Union rep were together around a desk. The Star Union is proud to announce that the war between the Ravagers and the Union has come to an end with the help of humanity. The Union rep smiled while he panned from the President to the camera. "Please know this decision has not come easy," the Union rep continued. "Humanity has decided to join the Star Union as a separate species from the Terrans. They want their own independence." The Union rep began nervously shifting in his chair. "But, well, you see..." The President cut off the Union rep. "We will join the Star Union, but only if the Ravagers are accepted too. They have committed great war crimes. Their leaders will be held responsible and tried in the court of law." The President straightened his back as he continued. "They have also known great loss. Massive losses at our hands in the skirmishes." The Matriarch looked away in disgust as he talked about their defeat. "We tore apart 2 of their 5 planets. Yes, they took much from you. Lives are immeasurable, but your home planets were reclaimed and rebuilt." The President looked at the Matriarch. "But we destroyed almost half of their worlds, never to be reclaimed or recovered. They suffered a horrible loss, and their citizens should not suffer for their leaders' poor decisions. Please show them the same mercy and grace the Terrans have shown you. We look forward to your response, Star Union." With that, the feed of the 3 members was cut. The 2 news anchors looked stunned, and silence filled the air of live holo news for the first time. I would like to say I had grown a little accustomed to humanity's decision-making process, and was able to pick my mandibles off the ground faster than anyone else. Whatever brought them to accept the Ravagers, I supported, and in that moment I learned one last human strength. I quickly booted up my hololog, my final entry as a journalist, a short 6-sentence blurb. Star Union News, front page. One last act of strength. Even after a horrible war against an enemy who broke the laws of conflict, and great losses for the humans, Terrans, and the Union as a whole, humans still performed one last act of great strength. Forgiveness. In this moment, the history of the Star Union and Terrans made sense. Terrans were the same as humans, just adapted to space. They shared the same mercy, grace, and compassion as their ancestors. No, that's not quite right. They shared the same mercy, grace, and compassion as their homeworlders. Signed, Journalist Khan.